Hi there, Blaze here, and in today's tutorial we're gonna set up Godot engine to make it possible to export games to mobile devices. And before we start, you need to install JDK. It's a Java development kit, and you can download it from the site from the description. You need to select your operating system, so for example Windows, and then download the installer. After that you will also need Android SDK, and the easiest option to download the Android SDK is to download the Android Studio from the Google site. Link is in the description. And after installing it, open it, and here in More Actions you can select the SDK manager. There's the location where the SDK will be saved. You can copy and paste it somewhere because we will need this location. Here you need to set the SDK you want to install. I use SDK for Android 13, so it's 33 API level. You can use whatever you want. Then in SDK tools, you need to select Android SDK build tools and Android SDK platform tools. Okay, so when you have JDK and SDK installed, open Godot, create new project or open existing project. I will call it mobile project and save it in the location where I save all my projects. And I will set renderer to mobile because we want to export this for mobile, create and edit. Okay, so here we need to start with downloading export templates, and you can do this with clicking editor menu, go to manage export templates. And as you can see, I have already installed, but if you don't have installed, you just can select best available mirror and click download and install. After that, we will create simple 2D scene. This is only because we need some scene to be displayed as the default, because without this we will get an error. So we can do this. Let's go and save this scene. I will call it startup and save. We need to set this scene as a main scene, so right click and set as main. When we run this program, you can see that we have an empty scene here. Okay, so now we need to export this, and to export this we will need to go to project, export, and we need to create some presets. So add Android. Here we have some errors. If you will have an error that SDK is not found, you will need to go to editor settings, move here to the export Android, and you need to set the SDK location here. I already have keystore generated, but I will show you how you can do this. So I will remove this, and to generate the key, you will need to use tools from keytool, and keytool is available in the JDK. The easiest option to do this is to open the terminal. If you're working on Mac or on Linux, you will probably have an access to this keytool. As you can see, something happens here. But if you don't use the systems, if you use Windows, you will need to go to the location where these JDK tools are installed. So you will need to write cd. cd is something like change the working location. So we go to the C, program files, and we need to make it in the quota because as we have spaces in the name, then Java, JDK, and you will have a version here. You need to check this version, for example, with Windows Explorer to check what is the name of this directory. It can be, for example, 1.6 point something. Then we need to go to bin and click enter. Of course, I get an error because I'm working on Mac, but if you work on Windows, you will probably go to this location. If something is wrong, just check if the directory is correct or if you installed the JDK. Okay, so now we can generate keystore with our keytool. Just write keytool, then keyalg, and we go with RSA, genkeypair, alias, and let's name it androiddebugkey, just like here, androiddebugkey, then keypass, and we go with Android, just like here in the editor. Then we write keystore and save it in the debug.keystore, storepass, and we can write Android again, dname, and in the quota we need to write cn equals Android debug, O equals Android, and C equals US, for example. Then validity 9999, deststoretype PKCS12, and click enter. This debug keystore is not generated. We can also already go with the release keystore. Debug key is used when you export your application as the debug build. If you go to release build, you will need to use release keystore. So we can generate release keystore with keytool v genkey keystore, and you can write the name of your game. For example, you should probably use separated keys for separated applications. So let's name it mobile project, just like my project, keystore, then alias, and we can set here the name of the project again, so mobile project, keyalg, RSA, validity, and let's set 10,000. When you click enter, you will need to enter the password and some other stuff. Go through this. Remember to save your password somewhere so you can use it in the future. Okay, so now we need to use this keystore. So here in debug keystore, just select the created file. It will be created in the location where you have your terminal opened. So if you use Windows, you will have this in this JDK bin folder if you run this from this folder. And if you work on Mac or Linux and you don't change your location, you will probably have this in the home folder. folder. I created this in the home/keys folder, and I can select this debug.keystore and open it. Okay, as you can see, we have 2 errors here. Invalid package name. This is because we need to set this package name here. We usually go with the domain in the format that first goes the extension of this domain, then the domain name, and then the name of the project. So for example, we can have com.company.mobile-project. In my example, I can use games.blazedev.mobile-project. We cannot use this dash here, and we need to enable this import in the project settings, and we can do this by clicking the project settings. We can use the search box here, import atc, and this is in the rendering textures. We need to enable it, and we need to restart the editor. So I'm clicking save and restart. Now go to the project export, and we already don't have any errors now. So we can click on the Android runnable and click export project. I will create new folder called builds, click OK, and in this build I will generate mobile-project.apk. So I click save. This will take a while. Now I need to connect my phone. Remember to have developers options enabled on your Android device. You can do this in the settings. If you're not sure how to do this, check any tutorial on the internet. Okay, so when our project is exported, I will open it in the location where I exported this. So mobile project builds, and as you can see, I have the APK file here. And to install that, we will need to use ADB. Of course, you can use any graphic wrapper to the ADB, but I will use pure ADB from terminal so I can show you how to do this. To run ADB, we will need to write ADB, but probably this command will be not found even if you use macOS or Linux. ADB is installed with Android SDK platform tools, so we will need to go to the location where this SDK is installed. As you remember, I tell you to write down this location because we will need it in the future. So we go to this SDK, then we need to write cd and go to the platform tools. And when you list this location, you will see that here we have an IDB, and to run this IDB, we will need to write ./ADB, and it's now working. So to install our APK, we need to set ./ADB install, and we need to specify the location of our APK. In my case, it's in home folder, dev repos, mobile project builds mobile-project.apk, and when we hit enter, this APK will be transferred to our phone. This will not take long because it's a really small APK. And now I will show you on my phone how I run this. Okay, so as you can see on my phone, when we go to the application list, we have our mobile project, and when we run this, we have nothing but this gray scene, but that means that our project runs. Okay, so we can close this. This is how I set up export for Android devices. Now we will go with iOS. So if you want to export to the iOS, again, you need to go to project menu, export. You will need to add new preset, iOS. And as you can see, you have 2 errors here, that App Store team ID is not specified and that identifier is missing. So when we go to the identifier, bundle identifier, it's the same case like in the Android. We often write the domain, but in this opposite format. So we write the extension of the domain first. So we can go with com.company, your company or your name as a developer. And then you have to write the name of the application. Let's go with mobile project again. And again, I have my own domain, blazedev.games, so I can use this domain here, games.blazedev.mobile-project. Last thing, the App Store team ID. You can obtain this information on your developer account. You need to go to the developer.apple.com, log in your development account, and here in membership details, you will have some details about your account and also the team ID. I will not show you this because this is private identifier, so I cannot show you this, but you will have the team ID, and this will be one of the first things displayed in this page. If you don't have this team ID, this is probably because you don't have an iOS account. You need to create Apple developer account and you need to pay this annual fee to obtain your team ID. Okay, so we have our preset configured. We now go to the export project and we can create new folder to export to iOS because this will generate more than one file. mobile-project.ipa. Let's click save. This will generate the Xcode project. We have a warning in the export because we don't set an icon. We need to set an icon when we want to publish this game on the App Store, but now it's okay. We just want to test if this will run. Let's go to the folder where our project is exported. As you can see, I have the iOS folder here, and here I have some files. We need to open the Xcode project. This will open the Xcode. Remember that you need to have Xcode installed, and you also need to use Mac computers for this because you will not be able to export for iPhone without Xcode, and Xcode is available only on macOS. Now we go to the mobile project, and in signing and capabilities, we need to check this devices automatically manage syncing, check our theme and our vital identifier. And if everything is correct, we can build this project. I have set the target to the iPhone. If you have more devices, you can also set iPad, for example. This will now install the application on our phone. And I will now show you how this looks on my phone. You have this mobile project icon here on your home screen. And when you click on it, we see our gray scene, and that means that build is completed and running successfully. Okay, so this was the tutorial how to set up export to the mobile devices. Hope it helps. Hit the thumbs up if you like it and subscribe for more Godot tutorials. See you soon. Bye.